You're listening to 17 Carat K-Pop. For more information about the variety of topics covered on the show, as well as my other podcast, How to Stan, visit 17caratkpop.weebly.com. And if you enjoy this episode, please consider becoming a monthly donor to support my work and allow it to continue to go on and be free for all to access for as low as 99 cents a month. Visit the Support the Show link on my site's homepage for more information. Hello everybody, and welcome back to 17 Carat K-Pop. 5 major news stories to cover today, as well as some miscellaneous, rapid-fire headlines. Lots to get to, so let's just dive right into it today. With story number 1, HYBE updates. HYBE has made Time Magazine's list for the 100 most influential companies of 2021. There were 5 categories of winners: pioneers, leaders, innovators, titans, and disruptors. And HYBE was labeled a pioneer, as well as some interesting brands like Headspace, Bumble, and Roblox. HYBE ended up being the only South Korean company on the list. HYBE acquiring Ithaca was certainly mentioned in the write-up about why they made the list, but I have a feeling even if that did not happen, HYBE would have made the cut, because they truly have been having a global impact. Obviously, I'm biased, so if you don't want to take it from me, take it from the writers of this piece, who said, quote, "Like Disney before it, HYBE looks at each of its acts as intellectual property, to be developed into a universe of fan-friendly experiences and products. That's meant everything from logos on Samsung smartphones to virtual Fortnite parties," unquote. In other words, what's been recognized is HYBE's motto of, basically, the customer is always right, only it's the fans are always right. Mr. Bang, as well as Lenzo Lee, for the first time, the new global CEO, were both labeled Billboard International Power Players for 2021 as well. If you want to check out HYBE's headquarters and you happen to live nearby, you're in luck, because May 14th, for up to 2 hours, you are allowed to spend inside HYBE, at least the first 2 floors. So they're branding this as sort of a museum event, where if you register ahead of time and of course follow COVID protocols while you're there, distance yourself, wear a mask, etc., show them your assigned QR code after registering, and then you get to browse the first and second floors of HYBE HQ. There are 2 halls, the Experience Hall and the Exhibition Hall. So I would assume the Exhibition Hall is more museum-like and just looking at what's on display. Whereas I would say the Experience Hall would be more of an interactive component, or maybe shopping opportunities, something like that. But interestingly, you can only take pictures in that Experience Hall. You're not allowed to take pictures in the Exhibition Hall. Category 1 of news updates was about HYBE. Category 2 is about BTS. Lots is new from them. Some exciting, some not. And what's not as exciting is, a week or 2 ago on the show, I talked about Jimin's hanbok that he wore for the Tonight Show performance that was going to be sold at an auction. It's never been washed, it even still has his makeup stains on it. It was going to sell for a starting price of 5 million won. I wouldn't be surprised if the final bidder paid 10 times that amount. But, at the very last minute, the hanbok was just pulled off of the shelf. An official statement said, quote, "As this was the first attempt to sell his work," referring to the auctioneer, "he felt immense pressure of only the commercial aspect being seen. Also, he feared the commercial activity could damage the worldwide status of the artist who wore it." The first part makes sense to me. He didn't want the commercialization to overshadow his other pieces he was selling. If you have Jimin's hanbok, that is all everyone's going to talk about. That's all the headlines are going to be about. The second part is weird when he says he feared the commercial activity could damage the worldwide status of the artist. I don't know if he was worried people would assume wrongly that Jimin was profiting off of this auction or something. Maybe they were just worried it would distract from BTS promoting their upcoming single. I don't know, it's a very odd situation. In better BTS news, there is a first-of-its-kind variety show mashup on the way between Run BTS and the Game Caterers. So it will mix the premises of BTS's antics on Run BTS with the Game Caterers, which involves different similar variety show games, but those challengers have this business trip setting in different locations. So it's basically you're gonna watch BTS go on a business trip. This will be not a 1, but a 4-episode crossover event that premieres through Weverse May 4th. It premieres the 4th, and then the second episode will premiere on the 7th, the third and fourth episode TBA. BTS also just became global ambassadors for Louis Vuitton, so excuse me as I just casually stroll by luxury stores looking at the BTS Louis Vuitton ads and acting like I can afford a centimeter of square leather used on a handbag or something. Lastly, BTS just won in the performers category at the Korea PD Awards. BTS did not attend in person, but the speech they submitted was aired April 27th. And reiterated their common refrain of, "Spring will come again, hang in there everyone, and thank you for this honor." Category 3 of news, 17 updates. And there are so many exciting ones. The most exciting for me personally is to find out that Hoshi, as of recording time, what's out right now is a pre-order for his new interview/photo book. In an official statement, they've confirmed that each 17 member is going to get one of these photo books released to correspond with the release of their mixtape. That means that we have Hoshi, we have the 8, now we have 11 more mixtapes on the way, and each person can get their own time to shine this year. This is on top of the rumored full-length album for later this year. So even during relatively quiet months for Carats, we should get excited because they've been cooking up a lot behind the scenes. As have fans. A little while back, Mingyu's dad went to a fan-organized event to celebrate Mingyu's birthday. It was very cute. He was recording the images of the cafe that was decorated, just sat down and had a good lawn view of the light projections that fans had purchased for this hour-long viewing experience before he left. It would be very cool if someday in the USA we normalize that level of extra for our favorite idols' birthdays. So on top of the fans staying busy and the 17 members staying busy with music, there's also TV they're working on, because Seungkwan is a part of a new Idol spin-off show, rebranded version for artists specifically. It's kind of like Don't Forget the Lyrics, and it's called Dictation Contest. The cast includes so many famous faces. I'm personally most excited to see Kai and Ravi back together because I love their interactions. Miju from Lovelies, Jane June from Golden Child, and that premieres May 21st. Video and print releases recently from 17. They cover the June/July issue of Can Can magazine. Wanwoo and Mingyu cover the May issue of the Chinese magazine Power Circles. Hoshi covers the new issue of Night magazine. A new Dino dance video is out. This one's set to Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone. And they probably released even more new stuff by the time this episode airs. Really exciting time to be a fan of them for sure. Story number 4. A C-pop icon, JJ Lin, has signed with UTA for both USA and European representation. So back in Asia, he will still be repped by JFJ. I really think you've got to keep your eyes on JJ Lin this year especially, because he already just released his first full English album with Warner Music. Plus there's that Anne-Marie collab. He's already done 4 world tours. He started his own esports team as like a side gig. And what really blows my mind is that he already has around 400 music award wins. So needless to say, his career didn't even need this extra representation. It's already been wildly successful. So for him to sign with UTA, this is a truly historic moment. Mark from GOT7 also just signed with a new company, CAA, Creative Artists Agency. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Mark is already working on his debut solo album, and the first single off of that album is set to be released sometime within the next few months. I have a lot of thoughts about story number 5. There is this new show called Chad. It is already the most popular scripted cable show of 2021. It's a show on TBS that currently has a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not half bad. It's had a weird fluctuation of viewership. It declined over 7%, started declining over 10% of viewers, and then it grew in over 5% in viewership. So week to week it's been fluctuating who's tuning in. People are talking about it like it's the best show ever or the worst show ever. But TBS won't care. They're going to renew the show if it's the most popular. Even if everyone seems to despise it, you're still hate watching, aren't you? The reason I'm talking about it here is that there is an episode all about K-pop and the main character, Chad, falling in love with Monsta X, and AB6 is also involved in the show because in this episode they basically give a shout out to Chad and they perform their new single, Close. If you don't want to watch the full episode, no worries, the AB6 shout out and performance are already available to watch on YouTube. First, I just want to share my thoughts about the show. Then I'll add my reaction to this K-pop crossover situation. Essentially, the plot revolves around this 39-year-old woman playing a 14-year-old boy, a high school freshman. And that's just part of the absurdity of it, is they don't address the elephant in the room. It's part of the humor of it all. The whole thing is meant to be this parody of high school, essentially, where she is just acting the part of this 14-year-old boy trying to fit in high school. And so it relies a lot on suspending your belief in logic. It relies on that satirical way of making things funny. So I guess it's supposed to provoke some nostalgia or just anti-nostalgia in people thinking about what they were up to in high school. The target audience is ages 18 to 49, which I found interesting. And this, I personally think, would be a lot less funny to people because they wouldn't even get past glaringly obvious fact that she's not 14 if this show came out years ago. But now that it's out after PEN17 and 8th grade and other middle school, high school comedies, making revisiting that awkward period of your life kind of a subgenre of movies and TV shows. So now, at this point in time, I think viewers can move past the absurd premise of the show and be able to truly decide if they like the substance of it or not. That being said, I think timing-wise it owes a great deal to PEN17, frankly, because that show came out first and probably helped prime viewers to, again, be more accepting and move past thinking about the bizarre premise of Chad. There are different layers to their experiences because PEN15 stars two older women acting like teenage girls, and this story is about a Persian Muslim boy, so there are differences in their identities that affect the content of the show. So not to say that they are copycat shows necessarily, but the comparisons are definitely warranted just premise-wise. It's also just weird timing because the premise for Chad was in the works, the filming was in the works. PEN15 came out while Chad was still getting ready to premiere. So it's not like Chad just completely ripped off PEN15. Just timing-wise, some people get the luck of the draw with that. What's interesting to me is the disconnect between critics' reviews and audience reviews of shows. Because with PEN15, audiences are raving about it and the critics are raving about it. They think it is just a spot-on, emotional, and you're just invested in the show and the characters. With Chad, critics have largely said it's a good show and are impressed by it. But the people who have watched the show, the online discourse around it is so largely negative. So many people saying this isn't funny and the cringiness isn't funny. So it's an interesting disconnect because critics applaud both shows, but the audiences do not. Will K-pop help bridge that divide between audiences and critics? We shall see. So I've seen Chad, I've seen PEN15, and PEN15 is way better, but also not my thing. They are an acquired taste. They both don't have a kind of humor that is for everybody. It's a very loving and smiling through the awkward silences type of humor, reliant a lot on the cringeworthy factor. It's very based on that kind of humor. And if that's not your kind of humor, the shows aren't for you. I can objectively get the appeal and subjectively not be enjoying it. That being said, I do think PEN15 is leaps and bounds better, and it's hard to unpack for myself how much of that I think because I'm a woman and can imagine and reimagine what it was like being a teenage girl like those main characters, so I can see myself more in them. And how much I can just say that because they put on a more convincing performance. This whole premise is just funnier and better and works better when it's kind of a buddy comedy, when there are two main stars, as opposed to just one main character. Because with the PEN15 characters, I'm not super invested in them emotionally because I just didn't care for the show. But I could see why you would be, and I felt more interested, more emotionally invested in finding out what happens to them, felt embarrassed for them when they were doing certain things and saying certain things. I cared more about the characters. With Chad, I just frankly didn't care. I wasn't convinced Chad was worth rooting for in the same ways. So I just think that maybe I feel more emotionally like, wow, I care about what happens to these characters when I see them struggling together as a group. And when it's just this one guy being awkward, I think that totally changed the dynamics of the humor of the show for me. Add the K-pop component, and I have mixed feelings. As cool as it always is to see this normalization of K-pop references, like you would reference any other musical act, on a very popular cable show, that is a very cool way to further plant that seed in viewers' minds of, hey, maybe this is a genre worth checking out, an industry worth checking out with K-pop. I'm all for that, but I think it's best done when it's done with fan input. Because take We Bare Bears, for example. When Monsta X was on We Bare Bears, that all stemmed from a fan idea for an episode. And even if it didn't, you could tell that they did the research, and the creators made sure to add little phrases and illustrated details into the episode were a treat for Mon Bebe like me to spot, were clearly showed that they listened to us and wanted to portray the members accurately, even in cartoon form. So it made for a really great episode. I was very pleased with how they represented Monsta X. Shows like this, on the other hand, not all shoutouts to K-pop I appreciate, and this one I do not. It's kind of like when NCIS threw in a Mark from NCT reference for no reason other than to throw in a reference. That stuff bugs me, and this feels like it's going down that path, because it just feels like they just picked a group randomly and said, okay, this character is going to be a fan of this group. So, I don't know, it just feels random to me. I don't mean to say that actually this cameo would have been better in PEN17. There's a lot of nuance here, and I just wouldn't want to further exacerbate the teenage girl screaming over K-pop stereotype. So I actually, in that sense, prefer that this would go to be in Shad, because a young boy's getting into K-pop. I love to see that. But there's also the awkward humor that is going into it, so it just does not work for me. What really ticked me off was when TBS was promoting this episode and they posted a GIF and they tagged ARMY, not Monbebe. They tagged the wrong group. Very, very cringy indeed. So there are a lot of people who are like, this show is awful and cringy, and why are you throwing around K-pop's name for clout? There are other people who think, you guys don't get it, this is hilarious. You need to better appreciate more out there styles of humor and just appreciate the K-pop shoutout, whatever. So my take is ultimately that this decision is not necessarily good or bad, more bad than good just in terms of its execution, of its tactless PR strategy, or lack thereof. I'm very protective over K-pop groups and K-pop as it's perceived, and so when a group is mislabeled, labeled as a different group, the fandom is mixed up with another, those little details bug me, and then you throw in the fact that this is a collaboration with a show that I don't find funny at all. I'm just personally not a fan of this collab. Yet it is a cool opportunity for them, so I'm very torn about it, but ultimately my take is not black and white. It's thinking about and reflecting on all of the ways this is a cool opportunity for K-pop and a missed opportunity for K-pop. And it can be both at the same time here. It really brings up a lot of questions about when cringiness is funny and when it is just cringy. There are just a lot of misdirections that have happened already with promoting this episode. So, rant over. Let's move on to your rapid-fire headlines of the week. The winners at the Brand Customer Loyalty Awards were just announced. Who most greatly has been impacting South Korean pop culture and trends? The winners this year include Oh My Girl, SHINee, Kane Daniel, Chunha, IU, Eunwoo from Astro, Ha Sun-woon, and BB. The Billboard Music Award nominations are in, and the show will officially air on NBC May 23rd. BTS has been nominated for more categories than they ever have before, for Top Duo/Group, Top Social Artist, Top Song Sales, and Top Selling Song. Don't ask me why those are two separate categories, don't know. Blackpink and 17 are also both nominated for Top Social Artist. Ye and Sun have both chosen to leave the group Signature. No official reason was given. The company just said in a statement that they both have terminated their contracts on mutual terms with no strings attached. 5 members of A-Pink just renewed their contracts with Play M. Only one of them did not, Sun. She is leaving the agency, quote, in order to pursue her new dream, unquote. Not sure if that means solo pursuit or more of an acting career focus now, but she's got big solo plans, it sounds like. They say she's still technically a part of A-Pink, though. Swings just joined P-Nation. A One-We staff member just tested positive for COVID, so the members are in self-isolation, but as of recording time have all tested negative. 2 D-Crunch members unfortunately tested positive for COVID. Their company issued a statement confirming Hyunwook and OV both tested positive. The band has paused all group activities naturally. Rosé is the new global ambassador for Tiffany & Company. Brave Girls finally gets their official lightstick design, which is really overdue and exciting. Treasure's new line of toy dolls, the Trues dolls, sold out in Korea in 1 minute. P1 Harmony announced their fandom name is going to be Peace, P1 ECE. Mirai has announced their fandom name, which is Now, because Mirai means future in Korean. Chainsun from 2PM now has a new solo Instagram account, and Day6's Sunjin just opened up a second Twitter account, which still tweets the same kind of stuff his first account did, so not sure why, but there you go. I hope he knows you can just delete all your tweets if you want to start fresh. You don't need to make a second account for that. Cap from Teen Top is officially enlisting in the military May 10th. Hyunin Kai and Taehyun are both leaving their roles as radio DJs for EBS. They just started that gig in January this year, so this was a surprise and a disappointment to hear. Their final broadcast is going to air already May 2nd, and no explanation for their exit was given. Twice is now the first artist outside of Japan to earn an RIAJ, Recording Industry Association of Japan, platinum certification for streaming in Japan. J-pop group Little Glee Monster, with their best song, Echo, officially reached 10 million views on YouTube, reaching 30 million views, both Jessie's What Type of X and Niju's Poppin' Shakin', reaching 100 million views, BTS's Film Out, reaching 900 million views is BTS with Idol, reaching 1 billion views is Blackpink's As If It's Your Last, which allows them to be tied with Coldplay now for the most videos with at least 1 billion views on YouTube, because this is their 4th to reach 1 billion views. They also just surpassed 300 million streams with their Selena Gomez collab Ice Cream, also just surpassing 300 million streams. August D's second mixtape, the fastest Korean solo album to reach that. BTS's Dynamite just surpassed 300 million streams in Japan. Exciting updates for my fellow Taeyeon-biased people. Blue just surpassed 2 million SoundCloud streams. Is it too high of a goal to set to say we can get that to 10 million by his birthday in July? Just throwing that out there. And Taeyeon also just surpassed 4 million followers on Instagram. That is your news roundup for today. Stay tuned for my interview to drop very soon, as well as more new content. We have to talk about the best releases of April. Thank you all for listening, and real quick before you go, an action item of today for you. There is just an extreme surge of COVID-19 in India right now. And if you've been hearing about all the crematoriums overwhelmed, the lack of oxygen and vaccines, and just all these other facets of the crisis, and don't know how to help, a good place to start is bit.ly/Mutual Aid India. And it is case sensitive, capital M, capital A, capital I for Mutual Aid India. Following that link will lead you to a master Google Doc of places that need donations for funding for more oxygen and things like that. Please do what you can there and stay informed about what's going on, because none of us are safe from this virus until we all are. Thank you for listening to today's episode, and I will talk to you all again very soon.